Explore and Learn Earth and Space by Miles Kelly. We live on Earth. Where do you live? Wherever it is, it's on Earth. The Earth is a huge rocky ball that spins slowly around and around. Parts of the Earth are covered with land. Other parts are covered with huge areas of water called oceans. The whole Earth is surrounded by a layer of air. There are living things in nearly every part of the Earth, on the land, in the water, and in the air. The warmth and light from the sun make it possible for all these living things to stay alive. On the land. Land covers over 1/4 of the surface of the Earth. The 7 largest areas of land are called continents. You can find their names on the map. A long time ago, all these continents were joined together to make one huge piece of land. It was called a supercontinent. Very slowly, over millions of years, the supercontinent broke apart to make the 7 continents that we have today. The smaller areas of land that broke up became islands surrounded by water. In the ocean, nearly all the water on the Earth is in the oceans and the seas. There are 5 great oceans: the Arctic Ocean, the Atlantic Ocean, the Indian Ocean, the Pacific Ocean, and the Southern Ocean. They are joined to each other. At the bottom of the ocean lies the ocean floor. Like the land, it has lots of different features. Deep below the surface, there are mountains and plains, as well as volcanoes and trenches. The deepest trench is the Marianas Trench. It is so deep that the bottom is nearly 7 miles, which is 11 kilometers, below the ocean waves. That's as tall as 12 of the tallest skyscrapers stacked on top of each other. Ol-Olin, God of the Sea. The Yoruba people of Nigeria believed in a sea god called Ol-Olin. His home was a shimmering underwater palace. He rode across the waves in a silver chariot pulled by a flying fish. Ol-Olin wanted to be the most important god. He challenged the Supreme Creator to a contest. Each would appear in their finest clothes, trying to outshine the other. Less important gods would judge. On the day of the contest, the Supreme Creator sent a chameleon to fetch Ol-Olin, who was surprised to see the chameleon looking as grand as himself. Ol-Olin changed into another fine outfit. He was shocked to see that the chameleon looked the same. 7 times Ol-Olin changed, but every time the chameleon matched him. At last, he gave up. If he could not beat the messenger, what chance did he have against the Supreme Creator? How are rocks made? Rocks are the hard parts of the Earth's surface. They can be seen in mountains, hills, and cliffs by the ocean. Other rocks are hidden under soil, water, or ice. There are 3 main kinds of rock. Igneous rock is made from the hot liquid that erupts inside volcanoes. Sedimentary rock is made from sand, mud, pieces of older rocks, or from the skeletons and shells of sea animals that lived long ago. Metamorphic rock has been changed by heat or by heat pressure together. Why does the Earth shake? The Earth's surface seems solid and still, but sometimes it shakes and big cracks appear. Houses and buildings topple and bridges and roads collapse. When this happens, an earthquake is taking place. Earthquakes are very powerful and cause serious damage. They may even kill people. An earthquake happens when the rocks below the surface move suddenly and violently, scraping against each other. Some parts of the world have a lot of earthquakes. Scientists who study rocks try to work out when and where the next earthquake will happen. Inside a volcano. Some volcanoes are mountains or hills that can blast out clouds of dust, ash, and red-hot melted rocks. When this happens, the volcano is erupting. The fiery rocks come from deep inside the ground. They pour out of an opening at the top and run down the volcano's sides as streams of hot, red lava. When it cools, the runny lava becomes hard and turns back into rock. How are mountains made? Mountains are bigger than hills. They reach up much higher than the land around them. Some mountains have steep sides and sharp, jagged peaks, but others have gentler slopes and more rounded peaks. A group of mountains is called a range. The Alps in Europe are a well-known mountain range. Many mountains are covered with snow all year round. It is often very cold and windy on the mountainside, and conditions can be very difficult for the people, animals, and plants trying to live there. Water on the move. A river makes a long journey from the mountains to the ocean. Sometimes it joins with another river before reaching the coast. At the beginning, the river is quite shallow and flows quickly through steep mountains and hills. Farther down, where the land is less steep, the river becomes wider as it winds through the valley. Towns and cities are located beside many rivers. People use the river water for drinking and washing and for their crops. Rivers are also used as a form of transportation. Changing the shape of the land. All around us, the land is slowly changing shape. Although rocks are very hard, they can still be worn away into new shapes. Sometimes this wearing away, which is called erosion, takes millions of years. Wind carries sand and dust that wear away rocks, often into unusual shapes. When water gets into cracks in rocks and then freezes, it splits the rock open, making small pieces break off. At the coast, waves pound against the cliffs, and over time they are often worn away. Sometimes the ocean wears away a large hole in a cliff to form a cave. The rainbow python. The first thing the great god Mawu made when he was creating the world was Dan Ayido Humedu. Dan Ayido was a python or rainbow snake. The python carried Mawu in his mouth as he traveled around making the world. At night, the python's dropping became mountains. Soon the world was covered with mountains, trees, and animals. Mawu realized it was too heavy and was sinking into the sea. Mawu asked Dan Ayido to save the world by holding it up. The python made his long body into a huge coil so the world could rest on his back. Dan Ayido usually lies still, but sometimes he wriggles and then the earth shakes. Places without water. Imagine a place where the sun shines every day and it's baking hot. At night, the skies are clear and it's very cold. Hardly any rain ever falls. This is what conditions are like in a hot desert. Deserts can be cold places too. In the far north and far south of the world are the ice deserts, where very little rain falls each year. It is difficult for living things to survive in the desert, Animals often have to travel a long way just to find water. On the grasslands. A large part of the world is covered by open areas of grasslands. These areas have different names across the world. The huge wild plains in the middle of North America are called prairies. A bare, dry grasslands of Central Asia is called steppes. The hot grasslands of East Africa are called savannas. Natural grasslands are important in providing food for wild animals. Many grassland areas, such as North American prairies, have become important farming areas. Wheat, corn, and other crops are grown there for food. The lion loses his lunch. As a hungry lion prowls across a grassy plains, he came across a sleeping rabbit. The lion licked his lips, his mouth watering. Lunch! How delicious, he thought. Just as he was about to pounce, he heard rustling and the pounding of hooves. A zebra dashed out of the bushes. The lion hesitated. The zebra would make a much bigger meal. The lion chased after the zebra, but the zebra was too fast. At last the lion gave up, and the zebra was soon far away. The lion turned around and padded silently back to where the rabbit had been sleeping. She was nowhere to be seen. Like the zebra, the rabbit had also escaped it, and the lion had foolishly lost his lunch. In the forest. Forests are large areas of land covered with trees. Tropical rainforests grow in places where it is hot and wet year-round. The largest one in the Amazon rainforest in Brazil. Forests made up of green, leafy trees, such as oak and beech, that lose their leaves in winter and grow new ones in spring are called deciduous forests. Forests that grow in cold places, such as mountains, are usually coniferous forests. Most of the trees in this forest, such as spruce and fir, are evergreen trees, which means they keep their leaves year-round. What's the weather like? Will it rain today? Is the sun shining? How windy will it be? The rain, snow, clouds, wind, and sunshine make up our weather, which changes from day to day. The weather is very important to all of us and makes a difference as to which clothes we wear each day. People who try to predict the weather will be like today and in the future are called weather forecasters. Which season is it? When winter ends each year, the weather becomes warmer and the days are longer. It's spring. Winter and spring are season, times of the year when the weather changes and the days become shorter or longer. Some places have 4 seasons in a year: spring, summer, autumn, and winter. In summer, the weather is warmer and there are more hours of daylight in each day. In winter, it is colder and the days are shorter. In other places, especially those near the equator, there are only 2 seasons, a rainy one and a dry one. Persephone in the underworld. Spring, summer, autumn, winter. The seasons change without fail. The ancient Greeks told a story of how the seasons came to be. When the world was new, it was always summer. The goddess Demeter took care of the earth. She watered the plants and the crops, and picked flowers with her beautiful daughter Persephone. Below the earth, Pluto was king of the underworld, where it was always dark and gloomy. Sometimes he climbed to the banks of the river Styx to look at the earth. One day he saw Persephone. He had never seen anyone so beautiful, and he fell in love with her instantly. Pluto wanted Persephone to be his wife. Pluto harnessed his chariot. He snatched Persephone and thundered back to the underworld. "Don't be afraid," he said. "I love you. I will make you my queen." On earth, Demeter searched for Persephone and forgot all about her work. When she had almost given up hope, she sat by the river Styx. The water whispered what had happened. Demeter ran to Zeus, the king of the gods, for help. "If Persephone eats anything in the underworld, she must say," said Zeus. "Let me send Hermes, my messenger, to find out." In the underworld, Persephone ate nothing at all. One day, Pluto held out a pomegranate. It smelled delicious, and when 12 seeds were dropped into Persephone's hand, she lifted them to her lips. Just at that moment, Hermes arrived in the underworld. "Stop!" he shouted, but it was too late. Persephone had eaten half the seeds. "Now you must stay here forever," said Hermes. Finally, Zeus decided what would happen. Because Persephone ate 6 seeds, she will live in the underworld for 6 months of the year. For the other 6 months, she will return to her mother. That is why in spring and summer, when Demeter is happy, the sun shines. In autumn, when Persephone goes back into the underworld, flowers die and trees shed their leaves as Demeter cries. It's raining. Water falls from the clouds as rain. Sometimes it falls to the ground as drizzle or sleet. If the air is really cold, the water inside the clouds freezes. It forms tiny crystals of snow that stick together to become snowflakes. We need rain to fill our rivers and lakes and to give us water to drink. Without rain, the soil would be too dry for plants to grow. Sometimes very heavy rains causes floods. When a place has little or no rain for a long time, we say it has a drought. It's stormy. On a stormy day, the sky fills with huge dark clouds. Inside each cloud are millions of droplets of water. Strong winds blow, and it rains heavily. At the same time, you might hear a loud crack of thunder and see bright strikes of lightning flash across the sky. Each flash of lightning is really an enormous spark of electricity. Lightning is so hot that it heats up the air around it. The heated air expands and collides with the colder air, causing the crashing sound that we hear as thunder. Swirling storms. Very violent weather can rip trees out of the ground, hurl cars through the air, and flatten buildings. These storms occur in warm parts of the world. The storm starts above the ocean and travels towards land, bringing powerful swirling winds and lashing rain. These storms are called hurricanes. In Asia, they are called cyclones or typhoons. Hurricane winds often cause widespread damage. Weather forecasters use special equipment to follow the path of a hurricane. They give each hurricane a name and warn people when and where it will arrive. Odysseus and the Storm. Odysseus was a Greek warrior who fought in the Great War against Troy. After the war, he sailed for home, but his journey was full of danger and adventure. Odysseus let his tired crew rest on the island of the sun god, Hyperion, on the condition they did not touch Hyperion's sacred cattle. But Zeus, the king of the gods, sent a terrible storm. For a whole month, a gale whipped up the waves. It was impossible to fish. When Odysseus and his men began to starve, one day, as Odysseus was praying, his man killed and roasted one of the cows. Hyperion was furious and called to Zeus. When Odysseus' ship set sail, Zeus hit it with a tornado. The ship's mast snapped, and the crew drowned. Only Odysseus, who had not eaten, was saved. Amazing wonders of the natural world. Have you ever seen a waterfall shaped like a horseshoe? Or a huge arc made of pinkish red rocks? Or an iceberg 10 times bigger than a house? All these things are part of the world around us, and they were made by natural forces, not by people. Wind and water are two of the forces that help to create natural wonders. The Grand Canyon in USA was once solid rock. Over many, many years, the water of the Colorado River has carved a valley out of the rock. It is over 1 mile, which is 1/2 kilometers deep, almost twice the height of the world's tallest skyscraper. The natural world is filled with some amazing sights. The Earth's riches. Every second, people take something from the natural world and use it. We catch fish from the ocean to eat. We cut down trees to get timber for building and making paper, and to burn as firewood. We dig coal out of the from underground and drill oil and gas from deep under the ground and ocean too. We remove stone from the earth. This is called quarrying. All these things, fish, timber, coal, oil, stone, and gas, are natural resources. Even the food that farmers grow is a natural resource. We have to be careful not to use up or deplete too many resources because some will run out one day. Caring for our world. We are damaging the world around us. Our cars, trucks, factories, and power plants fill the air with dirty gases. We pour harmful chemicals onto solids and into rivers and oceans. And tankers sometimes spill oil into the ocean. We cut down too many trees. We know that we have to take better care of the world. This means releasing fewer harmful waste into the land, water, and air. We should save more materials by recycling rather than throwing them away. And we have to find new ways of traveling to reduce the waste gas from motor vehicles. Our planet Earth. High above the Earth, where there is almost no air, is the beginning of space. It stretches out in every direction and goes on forever. No one knows where it ends. Our Earth is just one tiny speck in space. It is one of 8 objects called planets that travel around the sun. The Earth is the only one of these planets where we know definitely that there are living things. It is the only known planet with an atmosphere that contains the right amount of oxygen, the important gas that animals, including human beings, need to stay alive. What is the sun? Did you know that the sun is really a star? It is one of the millions and millions of stars in the sky. Are you wondering why the sun appears to be bigger and brighter than all the other stars? It is because the sun is much nearer to the earth than any other star. The sun is nearly 93 million miles, which is 150 million kilometers from the earth. The next nearest star is more than 260,000 times farther away from us. Like other stars, the sun is a huge fiery ball of very hot gases. It is over 109 times wider than the Earth. The sun's family. Our planet Earth is a part of a family of planets. All these planets move around the sun. Some, such as Earth and Mars, have their own moons. These moons travel around the planets. In the spaces between the planets, there are other bits and pieces. These are smaller pieces of rock called asteroids, lumps of rock and ice called comets, and lots of other tiny specks of dust and gas. Together, all these things in space make up the sun's family, which we call the solar system. Around the sun, the 4 planets closest to the sun, Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars, are called rocky planets. They are balls of rock. The planets that are farther from the sun are much bigger. They are enormous balls of gas and liquid. We sometimes call them gas giants. All the planets move in the same direction around the sun. They travel along oval-shaped path called orbits. The Earth and the Moon. The Earth has a hard outside crust made of solid rock. Underneath this crust are layers of liquid rock called the mantle. Deeper down, the core at the center of the Earth is partly solid metal and partly liquid metal. The Earth's neighbor in space is the Moon. It is a natural satellite of the Earth that is about 1/4 of its size. The Moon is rocky too, with highlands, wide, flat areas called plains, and large craters. Some people think that these dark and light areas look like a face on the surface of the Moon. Does the Moon change shape? When you look into the sky at night, the Moon does not always appear big and round. Sometimes you see half the Moon or just a very thin slice of it. Sometimes you can't see the Moon at all. The Moon reflects light from the sun. It has no light of its own. As the Moon orbits the Earth, you see different part of its sunlit side. When you see a full moon, the whole sunlit side faces the Earth. When there is a new moon, the dark side faces the Earth. The rocky planets. The rocky planets are Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars. Mercury is a very hot place because it is closest to the sun. The heat on the Mercury during the day is so great that it can melt tin. Venus passes nearer to the Earth than any other planet. Thick clouds around it reflects the sun's light, making Venus one of the brightest objects seen from Earth. We often call Mars the red planet. It looks red in the sky because the surface is covered with reddish-brown rocks and soil. Giant balls of gas. Jupiter and Saturn are the largest of the 4 planets we call gas giants. Jupiter is so huge that it can swallow 1,000 Earth. It spins around faster than any other planet in the solar system. Among the clouds wrapped around Jupiter is an enormous storm called the Great Red Spot. This spot is bigger than the Earth. Saturn, the second largest planet, is surrounded by thousands of shining rings. There are really lots of tiny pieces of ice and dust that whiz around the planet but never actually touch it. Faraway planets. Uranus and Neptune are faraway planets made of gas and ice. You need a telescope or powerful binoculars to see them from the Earth. Uranus was discovered accidentally in 1781 by a German astronomer named William Herschel. At the time, he was studying the stars through a homemade telescope. Together with his sister, Caroline, he continued to study the planets and noted 2 moons around Uranus, along with 2 previously unknown moons of Saturn. Bits and pieces in space. Comets are like dirty snowballs in space. They are lumps of frozen gases, ice, and dust moving around the sun. When a comet comes near the sun, the ice melts and some of it turns into gas. Then we see the comet with its bright heat and long shining tail. Asteroids are chunks of rock in space. Some large asteroids are called minor planets. Some measure 620 miles, which is 1,000 kilometers across. Others are tiny, as small as your fist. Meteoroids are lumps of dust, rock, or metal. Sometimes they fall towards the Earth and produce streaks of light called shooting stars or meteors. 3, 2, 1, liftoff. On October 4, 1957, the world's first spacecraft called Sputnik 1 blasted off from the Earth. 4 years later, a Russian named Yuri Gagarin became the first person to travel into space. His flight lasted 108 minutes. We have learned a lot about the unknown world of space since those early days. Unmanned spacecraft have now visited every planet in the solar system. People can stay in space for longer and longer, carrying out important scientific work. One Russian cosmonaut spent 438 days on boarding the Russian space station Mir. Traveling into space. Most spacecrafts cannot reach space on their own. They need the help of powerful rockets to lift off the ground. Space rockets burn huge amounts of fuel. This burning produces hot gases that steam around the bottom of the rocket, pushing it upward. One of the most powerful rockets was Saturn V, which launched spacecraft to the moon. Early rockets could only be used once, but the booster rockets that launched the space shuttle can be used over and over again. Journey to the moon. When astronauts landed on the moon in 1969, it was the first time that anyone had set foot beyond planet Earth. To reach the moon, they had to leave their Apollo spacecraft and travel in the smaller lunar module. Once the module landed on the moon, they could get out and walk around. Later, astronauts drove across the moon in a moon buggy. They collected rocks and soil to bring back to Earth. They left behind equipment for scientific experiments, as well as their walking boots and backpacks. What's in space? By now, all of the planets have been visited by spacecrafts. Unmanned spacecrafts take photos and make maps as they fly past the planets. Sometimes they drop small scientific instruments onto the planet's surface. The instruments send information back to the Earth. The spacecraft then fly deeper into space, heading towards the stars. Satellites in space orbiting the Earth send television pictures, telephone calls, and the internet messages around the world. Some take photos of the Earth and provide information to help weather forecasters tell us about the weather. Inside a space station, imagine tying your sleeping bag to a wall to keep yourself from floating around while asleep, or brushing your teeth upside down. That's what life is like inside a space station. Astronauts, scientists, and others can live and work in space for months at a time in a space station. The station provides them with the food, water, and oxygen they need to breathe. Spacecraft visit regularly to bring fresh supplies. In the weightless conditions of space, scientists can make some medicines and chemicals more easily than on the Earth. They also find out more about how planets and animals grow. Is anyone there? Do you believe there are other living beings in space? Do you think they look like us? The Earth is the only planet where we know there is life, but people are always looking for signs of life elsewhere in space. Scientists use very powerful instruments to listen for signals from other parts of space. The Pioneer spacecraft that visited Jupiter and Saturn carried special pictures on board. They showed a man, a woman, and the Earth's position in the solar system, just in case the spacecraft met someone else on the journey. Watching the stars. For thousands of years, people have watched the stars twinkling in the night sky. Each night, the sky looks a little different. The moon changes shape, and new patterns of stars appear. There are special patterns of bright stars called constellations in the night sky. They were first noticed long ago, and people named them after the shapes they saw. Some were named after animals or peoples from the stories of ancient Greece, such as Leo the lion or Orion the hunter. Some have modern names, such as the horologium, the clock. Millions and millions of stars. Our nearest star is the sun. Like other stars, it is a ball of very hot gases. The sun appears big and bright in the sky because it is much closer than the other stars. They are far, far away from the Earth. Millions and millions of stars form huge star families called galaxies. The Earth and the Sun are inside a galaxy called the Milky Way. which contains about 100,000 million stars. And the Milky Way is just one of the millions and millions of other galaxies in space. Deep into space, the universe is everything that we know about on the Earth, in the solar system, in the whole of space, and even beyond that. No one knows how big the universe really is because we cannot see all of it, so no one knows where it ends. We do know what that light, the fastest moving thing, takes billions of years to reach the Earth from faraway parts of the universe. The Earth is just one very tiny speck in the vast universe, which contains millions and millions of galaxies.